Feels like a fishbowl.
That's what they call it, the fishbowl. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Ted Lee. I'm a subject matter expert for emergency medical services and content strategist for Clarion Events Fire and Rescue Division. And today we're coming from live at FDIC. I have a very special guest to talk about an event tomorrow morning, which should be quite exciting. So I'll let Chief introduce himself.
Thank you very much, Ted. My name is Chris Brainerd, and I'm a fire chief down in Southern California. I've also been a paramedic for, almost 45 years, and it's just a real passion that I have, and so I'm blessed to be able to be with the FDIC contingent and direct the JEMS games, so thank you very much.
Speaking of the JEMS games, what are they?
It's an international competition where we have literally teams from around the world. This year we had South Korea join our American teams, and they come in on Tuesday morning and they go through 4 different scenario-based rooms, very short period of time, and they're graded on every movement that they do. And then we take the top 3 teams and they compete in the finals, and the finals in this case is tomorrow morning starting at 9 o'clock.
Okay, and where is that?
It's in the Sagamore Ballroom here on the 2nd floor.
Okay. Can you give me a little bit of history about the JEMS games?
The JEMS games has been going on about 17 years, and it's really grown. We've gone from, quite frankly, very basic scenarios to very complex. Now with computerized mannequins and some of the technology, the graphics, the AV ads that we've added, it's just a fantastic, high fidelity. It's produced by a professional company here at FDIC, and it's really like a very good Hollywood scripted movie. And I think we do a heck of a job.
Great. And these are held every year?
Every year we have signups that will release the sign-up information about 6 months before the games, and teams can go on and register. And we ask for 3 people to compete, but you can sign up 4 people. That way, if you need to substitute somebody out by a planned rotation, or if somebody gets sick or so forth, the teams don't have to be all paramedic. You can be EMT, paramedic, nurse, physician assistant, or even a doctor. Some doctors still like to come back to the streets and participate in taking care of patients.
Great. So these are medical scenarios. Is there any fire-related skills involved in these?
No fire-related skills. However, we do in the finals. One year we actually had a structure fire simulated, and we had the fire department provide forcible entry, and in their full protective gear they took a hose line into a simulated fire, and then the firefighters actually pulled or dragged about 5 different burn victims out of this building, and they laid them on the stage, which would be somebody's front yard, very similar to what we would do in any neighborhood. And then the EMS crews that are competing, they take these patients one at a time and they start assessing and treating, and they're graded on how many patient care points they actually cover. Did they cover their airway, breathing, circulation? What kind of treatments did they put in place? Take their cardiac rhythms, treat any dysrhythmias that they might have, splint any type of issues, burns, fractures. And every single patient tends to be a challenge and complexing. Our goal, Ted, is to have a challenging but fair competition.
Are all the teams fire-based, or are they coming from almost any EMS area?
We really have a cross-section of fire-based, all private sector, hospital-based. We've had flight crews. We've had paramedic schools have students attend, and then traditional fire department paramedic services. We really will accept anybody that wants to come down and provide excellent paramedic care.
That's great. So why do you think the games are so important?
For the people that attend FDIC, it's infectious. You can't watch what we do without going, that happens in my neighborhood. I could come down here and compete on this stage. And that's what we want to make the message is, you don't have to be the best paramedic that this country's ever seen. Matter of fact, 2 of the teams that won our prelims just on Tuesday had never competed before. The 3rd team, Sussex, they have had prior teams in our competition. The other 2 teams, San Miguel and Zionville, they have never competed here in the games. So it shows you that I always tell them, good solid medicine, good communication, and work efficiently. That's the three keys to doing well in our competition.
Great. Now, you mentioned a few of the teams. Who competed this year?
Now that's a real test. I can tell you those three teams came out on top.
Okay, so they're going to be in the finals
Tomorrow morning.
Okay.
And then the fourth place team is Washington, D.C., and we have the fourth place team do our dry run. We spend literally months putting the final scenario together, and that's actually happening as we speak now. Mm-hmm. In the ballroom itself, it's locked down, it's secure, and we're putting that set together. DC will be the first team tomorrow to run so that we can work out any final little issues that we couldn't identify in putting things together.
Right.
And if we find a mistake or we find something that we need to correct, we correct it then. Because once we go live, we don't change anything.
Right.
It wouldn't be fair to have a variable for one team and not for another one.
Right.
So it all culminates tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock in the Sagamore Ballroom.
Great. Well, it sounds very exciting. You mentioned that it takes months to get this thing ready. What is necessary? What goes into this to make this happen?
It takes passionate, crazy EMS people. I happen to be the director of this thing, and I have a right-hand man named Robin Davis, and he is phenomenal. And then we have about 40 other volunteers. 4 of those volunteers are what we call room authors. We tell them, put together a room for the preliminaries. I give them free license to design it, and then Robin and I will come in and we'll help round it out because we know what our capabilities are. And we also have a budget.
Right.
Obviously we can't have something that's going to cost so much money that it doesn't make it fair to the rest of the convention, right?
Right.
So the room authors build 4 rooms. Then we actually get with FDIC Logistics. They are fantastic at filling out our wish list. Everything from, I can't say what we did this year.
Right.
Last year we actually built about a 45-foot tunnel that had right and left turns, and they had to go over obstacles before they got to a 6-foot by 6-foot void space. It simulated a building collapse, where in building collapses, pancakes, you tend to have void spaces. Mm-hmm. And that's where we put one of the patients. And so they actually take our information. They had all this stuff pre-cut, and then it's delivered, and literally volunteers from across the country, along with FDIC Logistics, we get here, we build it, and we make it happen.
Right. So a lot of background moving parts go into this. Can you give me a little bit of background about the room authors? You mentioned individuals making up the individual scenarios.
I've got 4 room authors, and one of them is Danny Myers from San Diego County, and she always puts together our triage room. And it's usually a room that's been destroyed, simulated, multi-patient, and it's a matter of going in there and in 10 minutes sorting out anywhere from 15 to 25 patients, properly categorizing them by a triage tag, accepted methods. We run everything by National Registry standards. So if somebody asks, well, what kind of cardiac drugs do I have to take? National Registry acknowledges it, so do we. So she takes care of that room. And one side note that people may think is a little bit interesting, we're in a facility, and everybody knows that the custodial staff comes in and cleans things up at night when we all go back to our hotels. So she has this room that we've prepared. Tables have been turned over, and there's debris on the floor. And we come in the next morning, and it's all cleaned up.
Well, they did their job.
They did their job.
Right,
so,
they did their job.
But we're in a time crunch.
Right.
And we go in this room expecting, what the heck? So just a funny little story.
Yeah.
And then we have, let's see who else we have. We have Carolyn Gaines from San Diego, and she put on a finish line tent at the Indianapolis Marathon. Okay. So when you have a lot of people that finish that marathon that are in compromised condition, well, in this particular case, it was a cardiac arrest that was simulated. So the doctor and the 2 key medical staff went 50 yards down the raceway, and then the first responder crew came in with the EMS team, and they had to take over that tent and all the patients. So they were reading the charts and then reacting to the way that the patients had basically presented. And then they're scored on how they could correct it. One patient had fentanyl and ended up having depressed respirations. So they got points if they recognized depressed respirations, which everybody did, but not everybody read in the chart that they had been given fentanyl. And so it would have opened up the door for giving Narcan if they would have known they gotten fentanyl.
Right.
And the pupils were not obvious, like pinpoint pupils.
Right.
Another room was Les. He's working on his PhD at Rutgers University. What an incredible guy he is. And his room was an acute injury to a neck of a football player. So we actually kind of designed half of a football field, and we had somebody in full pads and helmet. We showed a videotape of the injury back when it happened at Rutgers. And then as soon as the video quit, we have a football player that comes in and sprawls out on the floor, and now they're basically a quadriplegic with compromised vital signs.
Right.
And the absolute incredible realism is something to watch and participate in. And then we have two doctors, and the doctors will oversee the injured football player care. After that 10 minutes is up, that team and that doctor goes into an adjoining room, and then they get 10 minutes with the doctor to review their care. As a paramedic, I always appreciated when a physician would invest in me by saying, hey, Chris, did you think about this? Did you think about that? That was good. Maybe next time do this. That's what these two doctors provide for our teams. It's feedback and it's input, and the teams always appreciate that input.
Yeah, I can imagine so. That sounds like a pretty unique opportunity. Is that common to get that type of feedback in competitions?
I'm not aware, but I think we may be the first to do it.
Oh, that's great.
Now maybe other people that have competed here or watched are taking it back home and plugging that in. I hope they do, because it is certainly, when a doctor is willing to, pause and take a paramedic under their wing and give them a little bit of insight, I think that's invaluable.
Yeah. It sounds like you have a very qualified and motivated team working with you. And it sounds like this experience could be pretty amazing. Why do teams do this? Why does the individual paramedic or EMT choose to compete?
Some of the teams are actually professional competition teams.
Okay.
And it'll actually say it on their bag. So they go on the circuit.
Right.
And they find ways to compete because that's what they do. Excuse me. The majority of teams, they just want to come and compete and be competitive. I happen to bring a team from my area of state, and they're in the finals, and they were quite frankly a little nervous because it's an international competition. But they said, you know what, we provide good care. I think we can do that. And again, that was one of the inexperienced teams, and they came in and are in the top three for the finals. So I think it's just a matter of their competitive spirit.
Right. That's great. And you keep mentioning that it's international. Where have some of the other teams been from? You said South Korea this year. Where else have they been from?
South Korea, Taiwan. A couple of years ago, Taiwan came, and they actually brought 28 people to field 2-3-person teams.
Oh, wow.
They were memorable. They were so much fun, and they're so respectful. It brings a boost to all of us because you have people from other countries. We have some language challenges, but I got to tell you, it is a memorable experience. The games are certainly memorable, but when you get to network with people from other countries, it's just fantastic. So we've done Taiwan, Australia, New Zealand, Slovenia, Germany, and there was one from South America. I can't remember, Venezuela. It's just been fantastic when we get multiple teams that compete with us. It's almost every year we get an international entry.
Yeah. I think I realized or noticed that one of your team was international who helped you set up or help volunteer for the games. Do you have somebody that's international?
Yeah, we actually have a judge.
Okay.
That he comes from Australia every single year to volunteer, non-paid, as one of our judges, and he's been doing it for years and years and years. He comes here. It's not like he's on vacation with his family and he makes a little side trip. Right. He comes here to be one of our judges, and so it's just, we welcome him every single time.
Right. It's got to be something very special and gratifying if he's willing to do that. You come halfway across the United States every year to put on these shows. So, why do you do this? Why is this important to you and to your team to continue to volunteer and come out here and help put on these games?
I'm a very unusual fire chief. Like I said, been a paramedic almost 45 years, and I still love doing it. If I can beat my crews into a scene, that's my time. That's my time to be with a patient, and they all know that. Why do I do it? Because when I come back here, everybody is positive, they're upbeat, they want to go to that next level with their knowledge and their skills and their abilities. It's just fun being around these motivated people, and that's why I come back. And I think this is my 15th year of doing this.
That's awesome. That's great. So just to recap, when is the final?
The final is Friday morning, tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock, Sagamore Ballroom, the same ballroom where the keynote was given.
Okay.
And it starts at 9:30. It will be over by 11:30.
Okay.
And there's CE given for people that attend and also are in the games themselves.
Okay, great. So there's a continuing education component. And we'll be watching 4 teams go through. 3 will be competing. 1's a dry run?
That is correct, yes.
Okay, great. All right. Well, we look forward to seeing you there. Thank you very much for all your hard work and spending some time with me today live at FDIC.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.